Good evening and welcome to the Town of Westport's annual election night coverage. My name is Craig Dutra. I'm on the Board of Selectmen, and my co-host tonight is...
Shauna Tees, also on the Board of Selectmen.
And I'm Irene Buck, and I'm here to just fill in a couple of the little slots when things get quiet, because it won't all come, they won't all get added up that quickly. But I'm excited to be here with your active selectmen, see if we can come to some answers with the election.
And if you haven't voted today and you have your TV on, it's not too late to cast your vote. The polls do not close until 8 o'clock this evening. We just spoke with the town clerk, and the process will be, they will be totaling the ballots. They'll be running the totals over to, we'll have couriers go by from the clerk's office to pick up the ballots, bring them in here. So, but some of the other types of ballots, like provisional ballots, will not be counted tonight. So what we will be reporting are unofficial results, but with a high level of probability that it's going to be very close to the final results.
Yeah. Yeah, Chris was just here. So go until 8 o'clock, the polls are open.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about Westport 250, or we want to talk about what's on the ballot?
Let's talk about the people on the ballot first.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. We have 4 contested races. So we're going to go over the 4 contested races first. First, we have the Select Board, near and dear to my heart. There's one incumbent, Jacob McQuiggan, and then we have 2 additional folks running, Keith Dias and Richard Mundy. Right now, you can vote for no more than 2. So 2 of the 3 that were on the ballot tonight will get elected. Board of Health, we have 2 people running for 1 seat, the incumbent Donna Amaral and the challenger Carrion Fennelly. And then the other contested races, big one is the Planning Board. Planning Board, we have Jared, both are new, so they're both challenges to a vacant seat. It's Jared Pottigier, Roswell Underwood. And then for school committee, we have incumbent Evan Chandro and newcomer Kyle Stang.
It's nice to have so many contested elections this time.
Yeah.
A lot of times we don't have them. There's also a number on the ballot that are not contested. So we have the assessor, we have Twiggy Medeiros, the commissioner of trust funds. We don't have anyone, so we'll see if anybody gets a write-in for that. For constable, we have father and son duo, Arthur Caesar and Joshua Caesars. You can vote for 2. For fish commissioner, we have Sean Leach. Housing authority, we have Liz Collins for the 5-year seat, and then Paul Stein for the 4-year seat. Then we have landing commissioner Sean Leach. We have 2 people for the 2 seats on library trustees, Paula Feidelberg and Carolyn Fonts. And then we have regional school committee, Paul Jennings, and we have the town clerk, Kristen Stinson. We invited Kristen to come up, but she's very busy this evening, so she didn't want to join us.
Well, I'm not an elected official in Westport. I'm a very active and interested citizen, and I just want to compliment everybody who is elected, who is running, whether you win or not. It's just a real amazing thing that people will give that amount of time to how their town is governed. And living in a town like this, and I have fortunately lived in 2 towns that have town meetings and have very active volunteers, you are so close to how you're governed. It's really exciting to know you can won't call Shauna or Craig because I know how busy they are.
I love getting calls.
You could call them and say, I'm very concerned. You can know what people are thinking. So compliments to everybody that's running, everybody that's giving it a good try. And for those spots that are open, we have to come and find out why, because maybe those are perfect things for people to do.
I was really excited to see newcomers on the ballot this time. You know, people that haven't served in the capacity or run before. I think it was really, and some younger people coming on than we've sometimes seen in the past. So I think that's been really exciting. But I agree, it takes a lot to set aside your family time and campaign, and I think they're all very good choices.
Yeah.
So we're
very lucky.
Well, I mean, one position that never gets any interest is the Commissioner of Trust Funds.
Have you ever been the Commissioner of Trust Funds?
Yes, I have been the
Okay, so
Commissioner of Trust
tell
Funds.
us what the Commissioner of Trust Funds does.
Someone that was going to run, but
Yeah.
I think getting all the signatures, you forget that if
Right.
you're going to run for office, you have to have a few people that are willing to support you. What is the Commissioner of Trust
Well,
Funds?
over time, people have left money or made donations to a substantial amount for a fund. Some of these are named funds, some of these are not,
To support the town.
to support the town, maybe support a specific function in the town. These funds are invested, and we do hire some investment advisors for the town. But the reality is that Commissioner of Trust Funds is primarily oversees and has some input into the annual returns and the growth or not growth, it's in bad years, of the funds. The year that I was Commissioner of Trust Funds, I was also a library trustee. And I learned very quickly that the largest amount of funds under management for the town are for the library.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a complementary function.
And if you're interested in whether the town is earning money from invested funds, it would be a really good job to have.
One of the things, you talk about the library, one of the things that, when I joined the Finance Committee years ago, for one, the library was underfunded. We weren't funded at the state certification level, and we have been for many years now. But what I was so surprised on the budget is your tax dollars don't buy a single book in that library. All of the books are being purchased from grants
Yeah.
or donations or these funds that Craig is talking about, or the Friends of the Westport Library. So like, of all of the things that you think your tax money is going to, we're not buying any books.
Yeah, and those conversations should be had more often, because I think it's easy to complain about having to pay to support the town.
Majority of the,
So much is given by people's donations and volunteer
Yep.
time. That should count.
and the Council on Aging is another case in point where the majority of their funds come from grants.
Yeah.
And a lot of the most visible services
Right.
are coming from third-party sources and.
And part of having people manage those, like the library or council, is having employees that are willing to do that kind of
Yeah.
search. So we're really lucky in this community, as quiet a country town as it might be. So we probably will be a while before we hear anything, because we're just getting.
Well, the polls are still open.
Yeah, the polls close now in what?
45 minutes.
42 minutes.
And there's still people standing out in front looking for your vote.
Yes.
Would you like me to talk a little bit about what I brought to talk about
Yes.
tonight?
Please,
Okay, I
please
didn't want
do.
to rush things because we have a long evening, or you have a long evening ahead, but about a little more than a year ago, I just started wondering out loud what Westport was doing to celebrate our nation's 250th birthday. And birthday is just a nice, gentle way to say we actually had, the Founding Fathers had created this Declaration of Independence. The colonies had all agreed to vote to support it, and they were breaking free from the kind of government they'd had. It was a major step, and the Declaration of Independence was even a bigger step, because we were talking about individuals making decisions on their government, not being told what they needed to do. So it's very important that our country steps up and celebrates the memory of that accomplishment, that major accomplishment for us. And so 250 years seemed to be a time to have a big party, and I wondered if Westport was that kind of a place. What we learned, and we were encouraged to do this, me, myself, and a couple of other interested people in town, is by talking to our neighbors, talking to local organizations, finding out if this was on the agenda. And what we began to find out is, yes, in some places, like our historical society, this clearly was something they wanted the town to pay attention to. So in continuing conversations over the past year, it became very clear that what would best serve those organizations that had plans and the community that might want to know about them was Westport, Massachusetts, 250, because if you go to look up Westport in today's research world, the internet, have to identify the state, that we could put together a website, we could put together social media, we could provide the support to tie it together. And collaborating and working together has its own rewards, but being able to create a framework, thinking about how we should express that, creating a logo, which you can see behind me, and putting it so that everybody can have their own little sticker on the back of your car or wherever, so that we're all partaking. The Westport Mass 250.com website has been up. It has a calendar, it has lots of information. And first and foremost, I'd like to thank the select board because they listened to this request and gave us support and gave us the wisdom to say, maybe you should stay independent and not become a reporting town agency. I think that was a great idea because this was an evolving way to move the awareness, the promotion, and the Westport Watershed was willing to keep track of any money that might come in the door. So the volunteers that have been involved include Jeff Fitton, who works at the watershed, but has been really important to thinking of the design, the logo, and many other things. Jane Dufault, both Jeff and Jane are very local people. Jane lived here, she taught here, she raised her family here, and she has been a fantastic contact for talking with the community, talking with the schools. We wanted to reach out as far as we could, and so in order to put the website together, we found a young guy by the name of Tom Whalen, who is a professional photographer, documentary filmmaker. He got the website started and designed it, and now Carol Freitas, who works as a Veterans Affairs agent, and is an amazingly talented woman, is managing it, is keeping track, and the website has on it a calendar that lists everything that we hear about. Importantly, if you would submit information to the page that says, tell me about what you're doing, it will be included and hopefully have some graphics.
And it took me a minute to find it. I just looked for it. It's
Great.
Westport MA 250.
Yes.
If you just put Westport 250, it'll get you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought I.
You said Westport Mass, but it's Westport MA 250 is the
You
website.
have to excuse me, I haven't quite caught up with the technical age that I'm living into. And it was fun for me. A few months ago, I sent a birthday card to a nephew's son, who was like 8 or 9, very bright young kid, living in California, healthy, bright, able. And he said to his mom, you know, I can't really read this card. I know she means well. And I thought, now, he's not living in my time, this cursive writing stuff. And his mother said, we're sending him to a special class, so he'll be able to read your card next year.
Well,
And-
but that's one of the events that's going on is the transcribing the town meeting.
Yes.
Yes.
And there's really interesting things, handwriting. The Art Association, WAG, had an artist come in to show calligraphy. He was the presidential calligrapher for a period in his work life. And, you know, the whole idea that everything was written with a pen dipped in ink, we heard about this. So why is this important? Well, we don't have to go too far to say we live in a beautiful town that existed and people lived here and worked here in 1776, 1774. The town itself wasn't incorporated. It was part of the larger Old Dartmouth. And Old Dartmouth, as a historical organizer, has been pulling some of these towns together. It was a huge piece of land that slowly but surely got broken into parts. And trying to remember, you know, there was a big battle outside of New Bedford, and New Bedford was burned to the ground with the Revolutionary War. I think it's the stories that we all can hear that we haven't heard about. Clearly, there's important people that have lived here, but there's very ordinary working people. Those working people were raising crops and sending food to support the soldiers, all the militia. Paul Cuffey was living here, building a career as a very accomplished man who was both of African-American and Native American background and working to support the Quaker Church. The Quaker Church was an active player in this town, and they did not believe in supporting war. It was one of their basic principles. So, especially the young men in the church, but I'm sure their mothers and sisters were very conflicted, because not only was the Declaration of Independence written and approved and said unalienable rights, they had to think about the war that immediately followed. But there's a man by the name of Abner Brunel, who we discovered. Jenny O'Neill, the director of the Historical Society, and Jane Dufault discovered that Abner Brunel was one of the drivers, it wasn't just Paul Revere that was riding around sharing the news. He got a poem written all about him by a famous poet, but Abner Brunel just kind of got lost in the history of the town. But he did bring the information about the war starting, about the firing, and he brought to our area, there were militia ready to go. It took them a couple of days. I don't think they left until April 21st versus the 19th. But that story just got so much attention from all of us who were beginning to build a reason that Westport and ways that Westport could celebrate the 250th. So with the lots of support and interest by the superintendent of schools, by teachers of the schools, we've begun to see the possibility of some really fun programs. There's a young man in town who's a member of the Lexington Minutemen. He will be coming as a reenactor. He'll be dressed in colonial costume. He will be talking with students at the elementary school. Westport, Mass. 250 is
Westport
not,
MA 250.
MA 250 is not doing this. The schools, we are helping to facilitate it, but this is going to be really exciting. What we really like is to find a horseman, but because the plan right now is to do it at the end of the month on a school day, it's harder to find somebody who dresses in colonial dress and is willing to ride into town. But, who's to know?
Never know.
One of our biggest events as a community annually is our 4th of July parade.
We are so excited about the 4th of July because when we met with the organizers last year, it was something that they had to manage, and they thought about how they would do it, and it was really hard work. What we were able to do is encourage them to look for support, and the Westport Cultural Council did supply them with more money so that some of the things that had been impossible to find, they were able to get. But they also saw that they could ask the community. So I saw in a recent release that they're planning to expand it a little bit, to recognize the 250, to encourage more floats, maybe. I don't know exactly what their plans are, but a real energy. I know they were in to talk to the select board and get the permission they needed. What I've seen is the energy for the existing events, like the agricultural fair. I think they will all rise to the occasion. It won't be one event that's happening where 5,000 local citizens go to listen to a band. There's so many more ideas beyond what's on the calendar. Having Abner Brunel become acquainted, or the students in town become acquainted with him, to talk about what happened during Revolutionary period here. If you grew up in a town like this, you really have to have that in your backpack. I grew up in Chicago. I knew about sidewalks. I knew about buildings. I even read about a fire that happened in that city. But I did not really think about the Revolutionary War. And the different parts of our country teach us a little that reflects the environment and what happens there. And your pride comes out of that, I think. So the young people that grew up in this town have an opportunity to have great pride in the fact that their community was there at the very beginning, and we're talking and thinking. And I think it makes the stories very real for kids that are living such a transitional time. Nowadays, if you go to do something, somebody says, I'll just put it into AI.
Yeah.
I don't have to think about it. It'll get written for me. Well, we don't want our kids to not know why they're doing the things they're doing. They might need some help, want some help, but why did this happen? Why did this Declaration of Independence get written? What does it mean to us as citizens of a country that can govern ourselves, especially in a town where we have to go to town meeting and raise our hand? You know, why do we have to think about how we want to live together?
So I noticed on Saturday, there's an event at the library in our own words, where people who've been transcribing the town meeting records are gonna be
Yes.
giving their talks. I think that's gonna be really interesting.
Talk about that. Talk about that. Why are you interested in what was happening in the 1700s?
Well, so I think, so a lot of people don't know that we were part of Dartmouth at the time,
Right.
right? So we were one bigger community then, but I think it's just that you're actually, to me, so I didn't grow up in New England. I moved to New England as an adult. And it's like these stories that you've heard your whole life about American history, like happen here, right? If you go down, you go to the head of Westport, you go down to the point, those houses were there at the time, right? And some of the farms that we have around and stuff like that. But I just think it's like the things that they would have been arguing about, because it wasn't, we talk about the freedom, or we talk about the Declaration like everybody was on board. Not everybody was on board.
Absolutely.
And so I think I'm really excited to see what some of the conversation was about in town. Like when you're making your official town governance things that are happening, what were they talking about, right? I'm really interested to see that.
That's the interesting part of history that I think we missed in history classes, because it seems we're dealing with what happened after the fact, but how we got there.
Yes.
My husband's family all were on those early boats, the 1600s. And when my daughter started doing research, she discovered that on his father's side, they liked the king. They thought he was a good guy. And so they took off and went to Canada. And his mother's side said, nope, we are staying in this country and we're doing it this way. And they fought in the Revolutionary War. Well, their descendants met in Montana a couple of centuries later. And nobody had really said, do you realize that you could have never met each other, even though you had families that were living in the same area in New England? That's what I think makes history interesting, how things happen. And what if there were more people who didn't want to fight in the war? It would have been a very different thing, because they thought the king was doing. But the Council on Aging brought in a woman actor who talked as Abigail Adams. She brought the history. And she talked about those arguments, Shauna, that were happening in living rooms, how women were really fighting those issues. The Quakers were fighting about war. Other people
Quakers
were
fighting? That sounds like...
They were debating.
It's got to be a better word. but,
Yes.
yeah, having a discussion about
Yes.
war.
Spirited discussion.
But that's really what Westport MA 250.com is all about. We have stickers people can put on their car, their store windows. We have some posters around town. We have a banner hanging over the street. And I really do want to thank the Westport Cultural Council, because they have agreed to fund and give some support to some of the costs on all of this. And I want to thank the people that have been involved by coming to meetings, to talking, to sharing ideas, all of these projects. And I hope that somebody who's maybe listening tonight will think about other ways that we could really share our celebration of our country.
So how do they get involved?
Well, I guess you could call the cable, you can call me.
I think we can call the select board
Yeah.
office too.
Yeah.
And
But-
Well, there's a website, Westport MA 250.
Yeah. I think I did put my personal phone number on a sign, but if you go to the website or Facebook page, you might be able to leave a message. We haven't been formally meeting at one location. We've been meeting at the Council on Aging. We've been meeting at the Watershed. So either of those two organizations. We are having a meeting this week with some more people in town that are interested. We're hoping to expand the word, get the word out.
So there's an event, that's not on your calendar. You have a meeting on Thursday coming up.
Yes.
It's not on your calendar. So tell us about the meeting, tell us
Well,
on Thursday.
It wasn't intended to be a huge meeting. It is expanding, because every other week we'll identify one organization that has some things going, that if they can begin to identify how it might relate.
Yes.
We're not telling you that what you do as a monthly meeting should be about the 250th, but if your organization is interested in expanding, for its audience, for its own members, an awareness of why 250 years ago, very important things happened in this country. I think sometimes we shy away from the topic because it's politics, and we shouldn't be, having arguments over that. But this is not about arguments. This is, why aren't we sitting with our community and reading the Declaration of Independence? Is there an organization in town that would like to host that? Because we never read it. We don't know what it is, and yet it's the foundation of how we created a country. And you can always criticize things, but you have to really understand what it's all about.
So there is a Facebook page, Westport MA 250, westportma250.com. And then you have an email address, westportma250@gmail.com.
And that's where the question could go if you'd like to help us out. Say that again, Shauna.
westportma250@gmail.com.
I think that same address also works on Facebook. We're trying to be as up-to-date and accessible as possible. And Westport MA 250 is not about organizing events. It's about promoting the events that are happening and encouraging more. So if a small neighborhood group would like to host something, it's possible. If you'd like to be involved in any of the events that are ongoing, we are looking to see this continue through most of this coming year. And if you want to sign, if you want to, just recognize the fact that this birthday is a significant birthday.
It certainly is.
So Irene, I just want to thank you too, because I know it's been at least a couple years since you've been talking about this and floating the idea, and it takes a lot of work to kind of rally people together, and I'm glad that you found some people to help you out, but I appreciate your passion for it.
Wonderful, really wonderful, and we've had, people get sick and people do things and so on and so forth, some great people, but living in a small town and getting up close and working with our neighbors is one of the best things you can do. And I'm sure that's why both of you are involved in town government. Seeing the seeing the talent, the ability, and people's willingness to just hang in there and make things happen. So I've enjoyed it.
So where can where can people get these stickers?
You can email. And we'll have some in locations. They just came off the press, and we'll have some more information. Some of the history is really important. I wanted to promote Paul Cuffey and Abner Burnell because they are really significant former members and longtime models for our community. But we'll make sure that these stickers are available and that people can spread the word, spread the message. The message is celebrating our past, inspiring our future. That should raise the bar for everybody, right? Thank you both.
So much, Irene.
Well, our fourth panelist has arrived,
Well, we could keep
and she was on the ballot as well, so.
Want to sit here? Or?
Yeah, come over here.
Yeah. You have to turn it on, yeah.
Chair of the select board. Then you're welcome to
You can
stay.
sit
Well,
down.
Donna needs one for sure.
Donna Amaral is a current member of the Board of Health and hopes to continue in her capacity tomorrow. But, and also, please note that if you've just tuned in, that you are watching election night coverage on local cable access, and we are the talking heads who volunteered for this assignment tonight. The polls will be closing in about 25 minutes. If you have not yet voted, you could probably still drive to the polls from most any place that is watching
Rush,
this.
though.
And, but make sure you get in before 8 o'clock. We hope to bring the results to you as soon as they are available. They will be unofficial results, but I think we all have a high level of confidence that they will be accurately presenting the winners and the finalists. But that depends, obviously, unless there's a very, very close race. We have 4 contested races, to summarize. The Planning Board, the School Committee, the Select Board, and the Board of Health are contested seats. All the other seats on the ballot are uncontested, and there are several positions, like the Lonely Commissioner of Trust Funds, which does not have any candidates. So you could, I guess, if you had mounted a write-in campaign, you might have a good chance of getting in on that. So,
That's how I got in.
oh, you did?
I was a commissioner of trust funds. That was the first thing I did, and
Ah.
there were no candidates, so I was a write-in candidate, and I won by 16 votes.
16, wow.
How many votes did you get?
16. Thank you, and I
Greg
think
was a former commissioner of trust.
that's right. It's a role that needs, I think, more defining and understanding, because it's a role that has no budget
Yeah.
and really has no power. So it's kind of an interesting commissioner to be, yeah.
Well, until I became a commissioner of trust funds, I didn't realize that we actually had investments. You know, I always thought we were in various forms of certificates of deposit and bonds, and so that was.
Yeah, and it's interesting because basically what you're doing is overseeing how money that's been donated to places like the library,
Yeah,
and how
library's
that
the
the
biggest.
things that are in trust the money is being spent according to the plan of the person who bequeathed it, so.
It makes me think, we talked a lot about electing officers earlier. I'm going to take off pretty soon, but, you know, it would be good to have a workshop for people that might be interested in running about what do you need to know if you're going to run for office? And how do you, I know somebody was going to run and they needed all those signatures, and they said, how do I go about getting all those signatures?
I've been involved for a few years now with a group called Elect South Coast, and their mission is to promote women into elected office. So, sorry guys, but this is trying to promote women, but they do a lot of that. They talk about what are the roles, how much time investment is it really, how do you go about doing it, what does the planning board do, what does the Board of Health do? It's really been very interesting, but I think anybody who's even thinking possibly about running for something, reach out to anybody who's elected, anybody who's been involved, and there's lots of help. We saw a lot of new people on the ballot this time.
Yes, we did.
It could be at the high school, too, because the kids, again, that grow up in this town have an opportunity, as we see with some of the young people that
Yeah.
are running, and, you know.
We
if
have
you're-
two very young people on running this year, and
I think they have reasons to do that.
Yes.
You know, so that's great.
So, but Donna's here, she's not here to talk about Commissioner of Trust.
Yeah.
No, I'm not, but I thought I'd chime in because we're stretching the time. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Opioid Settlement Fund Advisory Committee. And fortunately, there's another member here with me. So we can have a good discussion about that. But for those in the community who do not know, there was a class action lawsuit with the pharmaceutical companies that were involved in pushing opioids, and people became addicted, and there was really no oversight, and there was more encouragement of getting people to have more of the medication. And anyway, the class action lawsuit was won. It was a number of states that were involved in it, and what they did was each state was given a certain amount of money to help address the issues that impact people who have been affected by the opioid epidemic. So, and the crisis that was caused by it. So right now in Massachusetts, I think we're expected to have over $1 billion.
I believe so.
Yeah, and so what the state is doing is they are holding 60% of the funds, and they're distributing 40% of the funds to municipalities. So the town of Westport right now has $380,000. And we are trying to figure out, the committee that I am on is trying to figure out what's the best way to use these funds to help people in the community. And we've been meeting now for, is it almost 2 years?
Well, at least 18 to 20 months.
Yeah, and one of the main things on the abatement agreement is that we get community input, and that's what we've been doing.
Yeah.
We've had people from different organizations come, and speak to us and share their expertise, what they're doing in different communities, what services may be available. We've had one in particular would be STAR, which is in Fall River. And there are a number of other ones that have come in to tell us what they've been doing and how we may be able to access that for people in Westport. And we've talked a lot about bridging to services because we may not be able to create services, although there's some ideas floating around. But the idea is being more of a bridge for Westport residents to be able to connect with and receive services.
And it really does run the spectrum from prevention, early intervention, till sort of aftercare, and aftercare in a set that we're creating a place and encouraging activities and potentially funding activities that will keep people occupied, keep people living in lifestyles post rehabilitation, that they could be successful.
Right.
So I don't want to like give you a pop quiz, but do you have an I'm about
I love
to.
pop quizzes.
So how big is the impact on Westport? Like, I know there was, some of the studies you had you had looked at kind of the per capita ranking of opioid overdoses. I know you have some numbers around
We had
that.
had, from 2015 to 2022, I think, or 2023, we had 45 overdoses, fatal overdoses. But we've had more overdoses that were not fatal. So, and so because of the number of overdoses that were fatal and overdoses total that we've had in Westport, we are getting, started getting over 30,000 a year. But initially, we got a big lump sum, because the way some companies, some pharmaceutical companies wanted to do was just do a lump sum and then decrease the amounts over time. So we've been receiving funds, I believe, since 2021 or 2. And so that's why we're up to $380,000, and we'll continue to grow that amount.
And kudos to Donna for taking the lead on this. I mean, I think a lot of us were sort of disconcerted that it was a couple of years ago that we were just basically, we used opioid settlement funds to pay for some shortfalls in the police and fire department budgets. Now, not to say that's not important, because the fire chief and the police chief, as well as the superintendent of schools, are stakeholders that have seats or delegates on the committee. Because we, in order to fashion town solutions, we need to involve our public safety agencies, our education programs, as well as citizens' involvement, so.
So how this all came to be, this advisory committee, is that Olive Wachurski, who works for the South Coast Collaborative that involves Westport and Freetown, I always forget the number of towns, but there's 5 towns that at the state level, they are wanting us to use services, to share resources. And so Matt Armendo, the director of our public health department, is the lead on that. And because of that, we get a certain amount of money, I can't remember how much it is, that goes to managing whatever overhead there is. So the town actually got a lump sum that could be used anyway it wanted to. So it was a benefit to the town to do this. And but the question was, where's the money going? And there is a very detailed abatement agreement that each municipality signs with the state to say, we will spend the money and we will follow these guidelines. And the guidelines are very clear of how you can and cannot spend the money. And that abatement agreement is available to anybody if they go online, if they go on the website. I had it up here. If they just go to mass.gov and they look under Massachusetts opioid settlement funds, there's a dashboard. And they can find out more information about what the abatement agreement says. I actually put the abatement agreement I've been trying to work on the website, the web page that we have. And I have the abatement agreement on the web page. So if you go to the town website, you can read the abatement agreement. If you go to the Opioid Settlement Fund Advisory Committee page. And there's also the ability to go on and go to their dashboard. And what that dashboard is it basically tells you how every municipality, how much they have. And for the general public, they have a new one where you can see how each municipality is spending the money. So that it's very transparent, I hear this word all the time, but it's very transparent, so people in the community know, hey, Fall River is spending it on this program I just found out about called PASS. And it's positive alternative to student success. And this is a program that the abatement, the opioid settlement funds are paying for kids to go into this program, and it's at the Boys and Girls Club in Fall River. And basically, it's a program that when a student is suspended for vaping, for any substance use related issues, they can go into this program, and they're provided psychoeducation, support. They learn a lot about substance use and how that impacts on them. I'm waiting to find out more about what that costs, but I thought it was the school departments that would have to pay for it, and they say, no, the Fall River is paying and covering all the students that go in. They have much more money than we have, because it's a big city. So they have far more money than we have. But it certainly is a program to look at, and whether or not that would benefit any of Westport kids. And that was brought up when we did our survey, and we asked people what they thought would be priorities. One of them was having something for kids instead of sending them home and saying you're suspended. And they go home and watch TV or play with their video games or on the computer.
So we're still at the stage as a committee of trying to figure out when and how to spend the money.
Yeah.
And that would be, if I was watching tonight, that would be one of my questions. Well, when is the money going to hit the streets, so to
Yeah.
speak?
But it also is a subject that not everybody's talking about. It's a personal subject, opioid use, and how, how it affects the whole family. And so it's wonderful to know that the town is addressing it as a potential problem for
Right.
all the students or whatever students need it. I think if it's not your issue, sometimes it's so easy to ignore it or forget about it. And
Everyone's impacted by this.
Yeah.
It could be a colleague at work. It could be a neighbor. When this committee itself, and I just want people to understand that when Olive Wachowski and I went to the select board and said we really think there needs to be a committee to look at how we can spend the funds, we do have a charter, and the people that are on it, and I think everyone would want to know, there's a representative from the select board, which is Craig Dutra, one from the Board of Health, which currently is me, and one from the police department, which is Chief Dunn, and he has an alternate when he can't be there. Another one is from the fire department, the school department. It was the principal of the middle high school. Now it's the superintendent. Dr. Roy sits on the committee. People with lived experience, and two people from the community and one person with lived experience, and a clinician. So the clinician is Dr. Dorsky, and the person with lived experience has been very tough to fill because it's not anonymous. So somebody who's in recovery would have to be willing to come and be on a camera and not be anonymous. So this has been particularly difficult. We've done different things to try to reach out and find someone, but the understanding is that it's too personal. And the other issue is we do have one person on the committee who lost her son to an overdose. So she really is our lived experience person on the committee. And she's been active in connecting with the NA and AA groups to find out what kinds of things that they questions or concerns that they may have. And we knew, for people in the community who don't know, there is a new Narcotics Anonymous meeting on Wednesday evenings at the Grange. And we didn't have one in Westport, now we do. So, but so the committee meets once a month. It's the third Tuesday of every month here in the Select Board's room, and we meet at 6 o'clock. And I have an agenda, and we talk about how, issues that are coming up. So one of the issues about why money hasn't been spent is we've been collecting data, what do people think? But we have to do this process where we have either grant or an RFP, where people will submit requests for funds. They will tell us what the program is they're going to do. This has been a particular struggle because we had written it, what it needed to be refined, and now we have a new town administrator, Chris Vitale, who's great. And I met with him, and he said other revisions had to be done. So I'm trying to do that and other things too. And I haven't really finished the revisions yet, but it needs to be revised before we can then put it out to the community and say who wants to apply for funds. But there are other things we can do other than have RFPs, and that's something we have to
If
think of.
people are sitting here waiting and they have 5 more minutes before the polls close, they now have all kinds of information they wouldn't have had if we didn't have this time, right?
That's
This is
right.
wonderful.
So polls do close in 5 minutes, and we do encourage any candidates who are on the ballot, particularly those, the contested races, to stop by if they want to make a statement, or they want to thank, if they're victorious, they want to thank their supporters, or if they want to talk a little bit about what they learned on the campaign trail. Even the pros that have done it a few times, that probably would have some interesting observations. Early indications are, and I think they're pretty accurate, hold up, is that the turnout was relatively low. I often think it's sort of ironic that we get great turnout, relatively speaking, for national elections and state elections, where you have as little, you don't have as much impact as you do on local elections. And the local elections are those that have the lowest turnout. So that's part of the reasons why we're taking the opportunity tonight to get people interested in town affairs, some of the things that are going on, because that will generate long-term interest. You get involved in a committee, you get involved in an organization that needs something from the town or wants to do something in the town. It's when you become politically active in many cases.
Well, and I think I'm such a huge proponent of local governance, and partly it's because you have an outsized voice, right? When you vote in the presidential election in Massachusetts, you're one of 7 million people who voted for president. But, on a local election, if we get more than 2,500 people, that's a lot, right? If we get 2,000, that's about right for a local election. And we have 13,000 registered voters in town, and probably around 2,000 are going to vote today. But what that means is your vote has an impact that is greater than what you see on the big national news. And your vote also has an impact at town meeting, because at town meeting, which is Tuesday, the 5th of May at 7 p.m., if there's 300 people at town meeting, that will be a pretty big town meeting. But that means that your voice is one of 300 people, right? You have, and town meetings where we're gonna vote on a $55 million budget, we're gonna vote how we're funding all the departments. We have some stuff is just bookkeeping, routine kind of stuff, but we've got some important things go on, and I love being at town meeting because I know the issues and I've been talking about them for months and stuff, but, and it's hard to participate in town meeting because it's 7 p.m. on a Tuesday, and it's difficult to get people to come out for town meeting, and difficult to get people to stay till, 10, 11 o'clock at night.
But it's a privilege.
But it's really, I really encourage people to go.
Yeah.
I really encourage people. We have an open town meeting, so any registered voter is welcome to attend. And It's interesting. The town, we have the warrant is printed on the website, and I don't think it's printed yet, but we at town meeting are going to have a handout that talks about, that has the motions that are gonna be in it, that are gonna be, because the motion and the articles aren't always the same. And then the town administrator is putting together little blurbs of, like, in plain language, what some of these articles are. So it's, you can go check it out in advance on the town website, but really locally, and like you were saying, all of us are elected officials, we're your neighbors. We go to the same grocery stores, the gas stations, we go to Lee's Market, right? We're accessible here in a way that you're, and I would take that to our state rep and our state senator too. They live in Westport, they are literally here.
We're very proud of our past because we know what happened and we know where we were successful. We also maybe know some places like, health problems and so on, that maybe we didn't do so well. And I'm talking about 1775. So when I'm talking about the past, it's a long time ago. But we don't know about the future. And that's what town meeting's all about.
Yeah.
That's what programs that Donna's talking about, where people are trying to solve it and make it better. It was terrible for some people and horrible to lose a child. So if you can have programs that can solve that, and that's what town meeting does. It protects us. It makes us able to live with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, going back to our Declaration of Independence. So it's really an important thing, and it's a privilege, I think, having lived in communities where you vote for a representative and then forget about the whole thing, and then you say, well, they didn't know what they were doing. So get involved, folks. I think it's a really important thing.
And we're gonna have plenty, so today, the polls are closing right now, but we are, keep in mind that there's going to be an election in September for the primaries, for the Democratic and Republican primaries. And then in November, we have the state rep and state senator are gonna be on the ballot, and there's probably some others, like district
Right.
attorney and attorney general, the governor.
Yes.
So you're gonna have, I hope you voted today, but you have another opportunity in September and another time in November.
Well, now it's a matter of waiting.
Now we're waiting.
I'm going to take off, and I hope
Thank you,
everybody
Irene.
has embedded Westport MA 250.com in their memory bank, and we'll check out. Thank you, Shauna, for listing some of the things that are coming. Look forward to the events that are ahead. 4th of July parade is going to be wonderful, and all of the other community. But if you're looking for some way to celebrate, if you have a member of a club or a group and you want, please jump in. The ideas abound. There is an organization called Revolution 250. You can look them up, and they are talking about all the historical events happening across the state. There is Dartmouth Historical Society and the Westport. Lots of opportunities to put your toe in the water of the past and live in the future. So thank you very much for your.
Thank you, Wade.
So Donna, I know you have Mental Health Month coming up. Did you want to talk about that? Or you
I
just
can,
wanna
I
talk
can
about
touch on it. So May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I will be formally documenting or writing in the shorelines what's going to be happening. My theme is Threads of Hope, and so I am planning a couple of different events where I'll engage people in the community around that issue. But I think that the issue of having hope and the connection between hope and mental health or mental illness is really an important one to address. And I think everybody can relate to that.
I can relate to that.
Yes.
Yes, a good friend of mine gave me this wonderful book about hope, Wild Hope, I think it was called, and it was a series. It's a series of poetry that is really beautiful and inspiring. So,
It is, yes. That was the friend. That was me. That's Donna Ashworth.
yes,
She's a wonderful poet.
yes. So I also want to say I met with a librarian today to ask if I can display a piece of artwork that I'm hoping everybody in the community will contribute to.
Oh, I'd look
It's
forward
going
to
to
that.
be, yes,
Mural?
and I'm going to have, one of the events is going to be discussing this issue of hope and mental health, and then everybody working together on this art piece. So it's an active art piece. And they're also going to display some books on mental health that focus on more hopeful
So where will it be displayed?
at the library.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to get one in the school, too. I like the kids to work on one. I have another one that I'll have a sign that says, "Please help me. I am fragile. I feel alone." And then to have, please add some words to this for them to help this art piece.
Yes.
And what would help them. So I'm working on that. I haven't got the approval yet to put it in the school, but that's what I'm trying to do, so. And the thing is I want it to be conveyed that the message of help is the source of hope.
I like that.
Very good.
I like that.
So, town meeting is coming up, Shauna, and
Check out.
Thank you, Donna.
thank you, Donna. We're going to be talking to
Good
you.
luck tonight.
Yes.
I think it's beyond lockdown.
It's too late
Really,
now. The results are,
die has been cast. We're just waiting for the results. Shauna,
to fill some time here, we thought we'd talk about the warrant, because I know everybody's just on pins and needles about what we're going to be talking about. So the annual town, so like I said before, we have an open town meeting. Any registered voter can attend. It's Tuesday, May 5th at the new high school, at 7 PM. And I just wanted to just go through what some of the articles are. A lot of them are not, they're not all, in fact, I don't think we really have that many controversial, but sometimes you never know. Sometimes
Right.
it's surprising what comes up as controversial. But I just thought I'd talk about some of the articles on here. So the first article we have is to pay prior year bills. So what I think a lot of people don't know is once you close the fiscal year, you can't spend money on that fiscal year anymore.
Right.
So what happens is these prior year bills would have been not for 2025, it would have been for 2024 prior bills. We have one, it's $890. But it's usually just because they didn't carry, it just didn't get in by July or June 30 when they need to come in. So those are prior year bills. We have Article 2 is within the current budget. So the budget year that started July 1, 2025 that is still in effect. The town, once the budget is appropriated at town meeting, for expense and personnel.
Yep.
Right? So once you set that budget, the town cannot move money around between other departments. So what we have in the warrant is an agreement to transfer within the budget from one position to another. So in this case, it's from the animal control personnel account to transfer station personnel account. So it's just shifting money around. So there's no additional taxation, it's just shifting between the departments.
what happens is sometimes that the expenses become greater than expected or less than expected, and this allows us to try to keep the budget balanced within the same fiscal year.
Right. The next articles are a series of appropriations. So longtime town meeting participants will note that usually we had the budget is like Article 4. But what we've done this time is we're putting appropriations outside of the operating budget before the operating budget. So what we've done is we have a series of appropriations to different funds, and these are mostly free cash that has been certified free cash. So this is money that was in excess of anticipated revenue in the prior fiscal year. That the select board kind of came up with a plan for working with the finance committee on how we're going to spend free cash. So it's kind of like if you're a homeowner and if you're just a resident and you somehow, you get a lottery winning of $10,000, how are you going to spend it? So it's a formula that we said, okay, we're going to put, I don't remember the percentages off the top of my head, but like 5% to a stabilization fund or 10% to this stabilization fund or this much to capital purchases, right? So we have some formulas that we use, which is why you're going to see some of these amounts look very similar. So Article 3 is an appropriation to the stabilization fund. So the stabilization fund is like the rainy day fund for the town. It's a little harder to access. It does require, once you put money into the stabilization fund, it requires a vote of town meeting to remove it from the stabilization fund. But Westport has traditionally kind of underfunded our stabilization fund. And I know we've had a lot of years recently where we've had actually pretty good free cash coming in. That has not always been the case. I think you've presided over some boards where we were needed to use that money.
Yes, but actually, we were already in the habit of almost underspending, so that
Yeah.
so that you were creating free cash for these types of unique, emergency, critical expenditures. But yes, there was a time when we had problems with
If
it.
you have an economic downturn,
It becomes very difficult.
becomes very important.
Because, we still, I mean, we're very dependent upon residential taxation of houses. We don't have a large commercial base. And we do get a little bit of revenue from meals tax and hotel taxes, but it's been useful because we've actually grown in that sector more than we've grown in some other sectors. But for the most part, we're dependent upon the homeowner taxpayers and the government, from other levels of government, to pay for our operating funds.
Yeah, the Finance Committee puts out a pretty good, where's the revenue coming from? And if you look at I said 55 million earlier, but it's $59 million budget this year. The levy, the property tax levy is most of it. It's 43 million is coming from the property tax levy. We get about 6 million from this, or about 9 million from the state, the state government. The other biggest source we have besides property taxes is local receipts, and most of that is from the motor vehicle excise tax. So your motor vehicle excise tax is about $3 million. We try to budget local receipts conservatively, so that's where free cash typically comes from, is that we budgeted at 80 to 85% of local receipts, and so we should come in with a little buffer. But back to the warrant. So Article 3 is to the stabilization fund, so that's the rainy day fund. Article 4 is to a capital stabilization fund. So we tend to spend the free cash on capital items, but we need to put some away so that you have future years, you have money for capital items that need to be purchased. Article 5 is a special education reserve fund. So this is a percent that goes in specifically to special education reserve. This is really important because one student can end up costing $250,000, $300,000, and it's really hard for the school department to budget for that.
All right, and that was a relatively recent innovation in this town, because there were times when we would have, and then, that you do have some circumstances where you have programs that are located in the community, then you become sort of the community of record for those many times multiply disabled children. So these are, the fact that we set that up has created sort of a safety valve for the town, so that it doesn't become a budget buster for the school department.
Exactly. And then Article 6 is the stabilization fund for the collective bargaining agreement. So, we'll talk more about this at a select board meeting, but we have the select board has 4 bargaining units, and then the school department has 2, I think. We put some money aside in case so the property tax levy can only go up 2.5%, but frequently the contract negotiations needs more than that. So this is just to help stabilize so that we can level out the cost. That one's a little bit controversial about whether you put that aside or not, but it's important it's important to kind of spare any kind of problem. Article 6 and Article 7, so Article 6 is creation of the stabilization fund for the collective bargaining, and then Article 7 is appropriating money into that stabilization fund. So there'll be some discussion about that, whether, if you're from the management perspective on a bargaining negotiation, you might be suppressing your ability to bargain if they know you have this money sitting there. But also, I think it's realistic to make sure that you're prepared for it to be happening. Article 8 is authorization for the treasurer to borrow. So this is just cash flow type of thing that the treasurer has to do. It's not additional taxation, it's just kind of cash flow borrowing. Article 9 is a pretty big article. This is the capital improvement planning report and funding the capital plan. So the capital plan has $2.2 million of proposed purchases, a lot of vehicles. So we have a truck for the Board of Health, a municipal building, a vehicle for the building, the custodial staff. We have some IT, we have some police workstations, we have some servers. We have a couple of cruisers, a dispatch console for the police department, fire prevention vehicle, fire PPE gear, fire department HVAC. So this is just replacing the fuel tanks at Station 2. So this is kind of maintenance of your buildings and your
Years when we have to replace a fire engine, those are big
yeah.
ticket items.
We did just buy we just bought a new fire engine. We have some money in here for the elementary school HVAC, the Macomber School playground, school safety cameras and interactive computers for the school, and then a truck for the school. Then we have a generator for the highway department, a dump truck with the plow. I think we all decided, we saw the value in a big storm of making sure we have proper equipment. We have some money in there to upgrade the Harbor Masters building. We have a truck for the beach committee and expansion of the cemetery that comes out of the perpetual care funds for the cemetery. So it should be noted that our capital list is much longer than these items, but this was the amount that was determined based on that formula that I was talking about earlier for free cash. Article 10 sets the salaries and stipends of elected officers. So this usually reflects, the paid elected officials that we have are the moderator, the select board, the assessors, the Board of Health, and the town clerk. The town clerk is the only full-time employee who is still elected. And this would just reflect a raise from the previous year, kind of in line with what the bargaining units got. So whatever the town hall bargaining unit got, that'd be what the clerk gets. Article 11 is the big one, is the budget. So like I said, the budget is $59 million. I'm not going to try to talk about it in detail, but the budget process, the select board submitted our recommended budget to the finance committee. We were a little late because we were supposed to do it on February 23rd, and that was the storm. But we submitted our version of the budget to the finance committee. The finance committee is in the process of finalizing the budget that is going to go to town meeting. But it's about $59 million overall. So it's a pretty sizable budget. Then we have enterprise funds. So the enterprise funds are groups that collect fees, and then they use those fees within the enterprise. So we have the marine services. So this would be your waterways usage fees that go into that. The water line enterprise. So that's the people who have the water projects or water. We have the town beach enterprise funds. This is where your beach permit passes go. We have community television, so that's from a special revenue fund to fund the community television, how you're watching us today.
Right.
Even if you're watching us on a computer, it's still community television. Article 16 sets the revolving accounts. So the revolving accounts are accounts that have money coming in and then money going out. So this would be like your building department when you're paying your permit fees. Your council on aging has programs, the ambulance fees that come in, So the revolving fund's just a maximum level of expenditure that they can have coming in and out of their department, so town meeting sets that. Article 17 is the Community Preservation Committee. So this is the money that's added onto your real estate tax for community preservation. And there's a lot of really cool projects going on there. They have some conservation restrictions. There's tennis and pickleball courts. I know there are a lot of pickleball fans in town, so come to town meeting. Funding some playground, and then there's also some historic preservation and some money going in the affordable housing.
Affordable housing,
trust.
yes.
So I know there's, I know you know more about that than I do, but there's
Yes.
affordable housing trust. Article 18 is appropriation for a water line enterprise rate study. So this is just to kind of align with, are we charging the right amount for the water line? 19 is an appropriation for the Board of Health for a roll-off container. So it's, Article 20 is the appropriation for the acquisition of foreclosed tax title properties. So this is the borrowing that we would do to, if we were to acquire foreclosed tax title properties. So this is more complicated than I'm prepared to talk about right now. We'll have Sue talk about it. Article 21 is an appropriation for some public safety training sessions. Article 22 is an appropriation so that we can do grant matching funds. I hear a lot of times people talk about, we need a grant writer, we need grants, right? But a lot of grants require some kind of matching fund, and we usually try to match that with services. So we'll have like the highway department or the police department or somebody will participate, but sometimes you have to put up some money.
Sometimes if there's fees associated with it, like in some of the classes and some of the programs offer, that could be used as matching fund. The value of the town budget that's already appropriated, I think sometimes in certain types of funds, can be used as match as well.
Yeah, we're
So,
very creative with how we find our
Yes.
matching, but sometimes, and we were doing some of the matching before when we had the ARPA funds.
Yes.
We were using that.
That was a big,
That was a-
I missed all that money coming into town. That was when I
You weren't
was
on the
away from
board
town,
then.
yes. Although, ARPA funds are still being expended in local communities, so.
Yeah, we spent ours, so.
Yeah.
Article 23 is an appropriation for school technology, so that is, I think there must be some preliminary results, not anything from the town clerk's office, I would tell you.
Oh, we're getting it from
I'm
other
getting
sources?
people telling me. Let's see, Article 22, so that was the grant matching funds. Article 23 is some appropriation for school technology, so this is like some computers, Chromebooks and such for the school department. Article 24 is acceptance of personal property tax bill exemption. So this is for really low dollar bills that we exempt them. Article 25, I think we're going to be talking about at the select board meeting, is amending the personnel bylaws. Our personnel bylaws haven't been looked at in quite a long time, and they're kind of antiquated. So we're trying to bring them up to more modern. The personnel board is responsible for classification of non-bargaining unit employees. So there's not that many.
There's been a discussion that's going on, particularly also looking at the role that the personnel board plays in policy.
Yeah, so I think that's going to be, there's some interesting discussion on that one. Article 26 is appointment of the tree warden, because apparently everybody thought that the highway surveyor was the tree warden, but legally and technically
Somebody else.
wasn't actually the highway surveyor. So we're going to appoint a tree warden on Article 26. Article 27 is change in the parking restrictions. So partly this is increasing the parking ticket cost for those people who are illegally parking at the beaches mostly. And also there's a restriction to no overnight parking at the landings.
Right.
Because that started to become a problem with,
I think
van
we're
life
also
or
addressing
something.
some equity issues between the different types of parking
Right,
fees and fines that we charge.
yeah.
So it makes it more consistent.
At Westport, you can decide if you want parking fees to go up from $20 to $200, which I think would be great. Then we have a lot of zoning bylaws. The zoning bylaws go to the planning board. They require to have hearings. None of these should be surprising. They've been public hearings already. One has to do with accessory dwelling units. I think this is just to match it up with the state laws that have come out about accessory dwelling units.
This was on the last two warrants too as well. So,
Yeah. Then there's Article 29 has to do with the height of buildings and defining the height of the buildings. Article 30 is about the number of dogs you can keep. So I think this is also to bring it in line with state. It's bringing it from 4 dogs to 5 dogs. And more than, it used to be more than 3 and now it'll be more than 4 dogs that you have to have a kennel permit. Article 31 is some zoning bylaw changes to the floodplain regulations. I think this is also truing it up with state and federal law. Article 32 is related to cafe and mobile food vendors, just kind of adding them in. Article 33, I was really excited to see. This is amending the zoning map to create a village commercial zoning district. So this, right now, we have places where you think of as, like, particularly at, oh my gosh, I've just forgot, Adamsville. So at
Yes.
Adamsville, there's a group of businesses there, right?
Yes,
There's a
the
coffee
cluster.
shop, there's auto repair, but they're not in a business zone. So they're grandfathered in because they've been there since before they ever was the zoning. But what this will do is formalize the ability to have these small business zones in some of the areas. I think the Adamsville is the only one on this particular map, but they're going to see how that helps the businesses. There's many, many pages on the warrant that are related to that. Article 34 is acceptance of Stacy Lane. So this is the only road acceptance. So this would be a new subdivision that was built, and they're going to make it a town road. This is how I got involved in town government in the first place, get my road accepted. Article 35 was new. You missed it. We stuck it on the warrant
I
the
heard
meeting
about
you were
it.
out. So Article 35 is some easements for the Francis Estates subdivision. So Francis Estates is off of Charlotte White Road, and there's some easements that they need so that the town could access a fire cistern and maintain a cemetery. But any kind of property takings or anything have to go through town meetings. So this is not controversial. The property owners are fine, have asked us to do this so they can move forward with their project. And then Article 36 is the last one, and that is a proposed change to request special legislation to the Recall Act.
Yeah, that was the one I was referring to.
Yeah, so the town bylaws currently have an act, or the town previously had special legislation created to create a recall provision that required 200 signatures to initiate and then 10% of registered voters to sign to create a recall election. And the proposal on the table now is to change it to 100 registered voters to kick it off, and 5% of the second signature range would be 5% instead of 10% of voters.
Because when you're the 10%, you're getting pretty close to some of the turnouts in elections.
Yeah, so there's something like 13,000 residents, or 13,000 registered voters. So that would have required, once the initial petition is the 200 signatures comes in, you have to get 1,300 signatures in 30 days.
Yes.
In order to initiate the recall. And while we don't want it to be that easy to recall people, because you just don't want that kind of chaos in your
Right.
government, we do find that there is sometimes a need to be able to recall. But the town will have a say on that one too. So that was a speed reading of the annual warrant.
And
We're
we, based
hoping
upon,
to get some results
yes,
soon.
based upon past experience, we expect something to begin coming in after 8:30 or around 8:30. But that's just it could be wishful thinking too. Last time I was on the ballot, it was a little bit longer before we got another.
But sometimes it depends how many write-in votes they have. She's not gonna try to count any write-ins tonight. The machines are pretty fast, so one of the things when the absentee votes, get fed into the machines at the
Right.
precinct. So there's no like having to count the absentee votes. If it's really close, she might be reluctant to announce the really close races. They're gonna post it on the website,
So
so
we're gonna stay on the air and, until we know.
We're okay.
We're
I know
good.
people are probably tuning in, they're like anxiously waiting.
Yeah, this is usually when I tune in, when I'm not
So
involved in the
what was your
program.
first thing you got elected to? Was Commissioner of Trust Funds, or was it something else? What was your first, like, major office you got elected to?
Okay, the first time I ran for school committee, and I was the runner-up.
Okay.
Then something happened. One of the vote getters, he was terminally ill, and he passed away. I thought I would be the next person to be appointed. And the school committee, the joint meeting of the school committee and the select board decided that they wanted to go in another direction.
Was this in Westport?
This was in Westport.
Okay.
Yeah, it was in this town. And so I was very upset about that. And so the night that happened, I said, well, I'll be back again next year. And so I said, no. The people that voted for you, that controlled this, are on the select board. You should go after them. And so I ran for, actually, Paul Smith and I both got elected the same year. We were both, Paul had been coming from the finance committee at that point. I was coming in as a failed school committee candidate who was also had been serving on the superintendent search committee for the school department. So I had been doing some of that stuff, and I think I mentioned earlier, I served as an elected official previously in the city of Taunton on the municipal lighting plant board.
So how long were you a selectman? You took a break.
I had 3 consecutive terms. Then I stepped down. Matter of fact, 2 of us that were up that year, Mike Sullivan and myself, both stepped down.
You both left me after I got
Yeah,
there.
yes, it was a year after you came on the board, I think,
I think so.
that we stepped down. And then my wife was also on school committee, and she stepped down that year as well.
Yeah.
But, I didn't say I would never come back. But I thought it was going well, and then when I heard that Ann was stepping down, Ann Boxler, I said, and I called her, I said, just make sure, because I think you're doing a good job, but if you're not running, I'm gonna toss my hat in, so,
I think many of us have been on the phone with Ann Boxler trying to get her to run.
yes. So, that was it, and so, and then, I got a decision to make next year. Because it's year 2 of a 3-year term. But it's been a good experience. I mean, I think some of the committee work, what I think you don't understand that when you're first coming into it, is that you spend a fair amount of time being a select board member. But some of the committee work is fairly intriguing. I mean, I was on the Affordable Housing Trust before I came back on the board. I had come back, I had been appointed, the board had appointed me to the Affordable Housing Trust. But I was the first member of the Affordable Housing Trust, on the first board. That was, matter of fact, the planning board I was elected in 2009. The town meeting of that year in May created an Affordable Housing Trust as a way of producing, a mechanism to produce affordable housing. I was the first select board representative to the Affordable Housing Trust. Served on it my entire 9 years. And then I came back about 2 years before I ran this time. So I've been on the Affordable Housing Trust now for about 13 years.
So what was your biggest accomplishment while you were there on the board?
Well, one of the biggest ones was we had an ad hoc budget subcommittee that created the formula, the 55 or 54, 46% split between the school department
right,
and the select board. And that was a committee that consisted of 2 members of the select board, 2 members of the finance committee, and 2 members of the school committee. And we sort of and I think, and then the town administrator and the school superintendent were sort of ex officio members.
yeah.
So that was probably one of my best accomplishments. Secondly was we did at the Affordable Housing Trust, Nokochoke Village. I was off the committee when it finally got constructed, but I was on the committee when we put it out to bid, secured. We converted the housing partnership that was existing to a housing trust. We sort of consolidated the efforts. That was a fairly,
Yeah, that was pretty big. That was, a lot of people are afraid of affordable housing, you know, they hear affordable housing and they get really afraid, but that Nokochoke Village has really been,
and I mean, I don't hear any complaints. I mean,
Yeah.
but there were all sorts of concerns at the time, not townwide, but within, immediate abutters and their friends and relatives were concerned. But I think that the organization, Community Builders, they're a nonprofit housing development program, but more importantly, in our case, they not only were they not only built the housing, but they stayed on and under another RFP, became the house property manager.
yeah.
So there's some equity with it. The people who built it also finally get to manage it,
Yeah.
so.
I think it's, I was talking to somebody who was running on the ballot this time for the first time and was talking about you don't really appreciate how whatever board you're on, you're also on other boards.
Yes.
Right? That, like Donna you guys were talking about the opioid advisory committee, right? That's in addition to her board of health and your select board
Yeah.
role. And, there's a lot of committees like that, and I think some of the ones like you were talking about. I mean, some of the stuff I'm more proud of is the stuff people have forgotten already. You know, like the converting the treasurer to an appointed position and making that a combined treasurer collector, kind of modernizing the finance departments in town. That's not really like glorious new building kind of stuff, but I think it's the kind of thing that makes like a lasting impact.
Yeah, we do. I also had a subcommittee that we created looking at the structured town government, and we basically recommended making everything appointed and no elected, not for, in terms of so actually the initial proposal included the collector and treasurer, but also included the town clerk.
Yeah.
And that was probably the most least liked proposal that we made.
People don't like change,
No.
but like the big case was that, because people think that, the argument that I heard when we were doing the treasurer, because you were still on the board then, I think,
I think so.
was that the elections will guarantee qualified candidates, but they don't. Elections might guarantee a qualified candidate if you have a competitive election, you have kind of a big base you're pulling from. But when you have an appointed position, you're able to have employment contracts with them, and if people aren't meeting standards or they're not meeting, you can fire them, or
Right.
you can discipline them, or you can hold them accountable in a way you can't really on an elected position. I think a town clerk does a great job, but yeah, that's the remaining full-time employee is the town clerk. And yeah, I mean, I've really been happy with what the clerk's office has been doing.
No,
They're
she's
doing a
doing
lot
great.
of modernization lately, which
Yes,
I
she has
really
done.
like.
Just the fact that the status, I mean, I used to have to go in to see who's on the ballot,
Yeah.
who's returned their papers. I mean, now that she has a color coding system and everything else, that you can check the status of who's on the ballot and where they are in terms of the process.
Well, and then things like putting the beach permit
Yeah.
online.
Yes, that-
The kind of all the online stuff that we're able to do now for dog licensing
Yeah.
and things like that, I think that's been great. We just recently switched the official posting location for meetings to the website, because the website was an optional posting, and we were still in this mode where to officially announce that you were having some kind of meeting of your board, it was posted on the little, the little plaque or the
Right,
little
downstairs.
thing downstairs at Town Hall. So that's super convenient for voters to.
Well, no, and I think that people are. I mean, the one thing that, there's always been very loyal viewership of select board meetings. I remember people who in some cases no longer with us, but when somebody, I remember somebody watching us at home and got upset with what he was seeing, and it came down to the select board meeting, and sit there and said, I was in my house this afternoon, I saw you talking, almost like within 10 or 20 minutes after we had the discussion item, we had instant response. But even, aside from those anecdotes, you do get a lot of comments from people in public that they do watch the show.
I've always been amazed at people, and people will talk to me that I don't recognize, and I'll tell them, oh, I'm Shauna, and they'll say, oh, I know who you are.
Yeah.
It's just, if you hear this, if I've introduced myself to you, it's probably because I have forgotten your name.
Yeah, well, that's
But I'm
human nature.
surprised at how many people actually watch, like, I'm on the Cable Advisory Committee now, which I was, it's recent for me. But I was pretty surprised at the viewership that the Finance Committee meetings get, and,
No, people.
yeah, people are watching. I think that's great.
Well, there's, I think it was Bruce Springsteen once had a song that said 1,000 channels and nothing is on, which was referring to the content of cable and everything else. And so it's not surprising that people want to see something that is real, and if, yeah, you're still going to watch your favorite sports team and your favorite news program and whatever entertainment, but this is an option that's real.
I love it when people come to our meetings. It's usually because they're here for a specific thing,
Yeah.
right? And then they leave and they don't stay. But every once in a while, you'll get some people stay until the end of our meetings, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
We like to see you in person sometimes. So it was a beautiful day. Do you think the weather affects the turnout here in Westport?
I think bad weather affects.
Bad
it.
weather, yeah.
And degrees of good, I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
Although today was stunning because, the difference between yesterday's temperatures and today was 20, 30 degrees.
I was recalling, I've been an elected official now for 10 years, and so I've spent a lot of Aprils standing out with signs for somebody or other, and just the variation of weather in April is just, we got hailed on last year.
This one was very warm. The year I ran 2 years ago, I think I was wearing a short sleeve shirt, and I had my son and his friends as among many volunteers, but they were all wearing T-shirts and polo shirts and things like that. So no, it was a gorgeous day. But I've also been years where you get gloves on.
Yeah.
Your hands are getting numb holding the sign at the polls. So.
I remember even some Memorial Days, because I really appreciate our Memorial Day events that we have, where we go out with the wreath laying and at the cemetery, but even some Memorial Days can be pretty darn cold.
Right.
It might be the start of summer, but it doesn't feel like the start of summer.
So it's 8:40, we're killing time.
We're waiting.
Waiting for the news to come up from downstairs. I expect we'll hear anytime soon. And if you're falling asleep early, well, good night.
Check the town website, the town clerk will
But
post.
we're still here.
We'll be here, because we've been here this long, we might
Yeah,
as well
Right.
stick
And
around.
we haven't gotten to the point where it's unusually late and that there's any problems. But I think part of it is we have, I think, one person going from pole to pole to pick up the.
Yeah, I don't know, I know the police go pick up the machines.
Yeah.
And they go bring it back here, it's all very official.
Yeah.
And
But
then,
there is some time delay, and I don't think we have 5 people going to 5 polls, I think.
I don't know, there's a police officer at each poll.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're the same ones that come.
I'm not sure. No.
Oh, there was somebody, but it wasn't Josh. It wasn't Josh or Chris. We're just waiting.
Nothing?
No, we haven't heard
Nothing
anything.
yet. We don't know yet. Was there a flurry of activity down there? There's like, yeah. There's activity happening. I can hear a little noise.
Yeah,
down
I
there.
did hear some sound. Well, then it is momentarily, since we've had signs of life from the second floor. Pleased me to report, and, but, yeah, in terms of other, offices that we had today, we named, I think, the contested races, but, I don't think we went deep into the other
No,
non.
is it,
People that had profiles on them in the local paper were Paula Feidelberg and Carolyn Fonts. You had,
for library trustee?
yeah, and then for the Housing Authority, you had Liz Collins, bio. There were a number, and also Kristen, our town clerk, Kristen Stinson, her
I
bio.
certainly hope that she has been reelected so that she has a job still.
Yes, because there was no runner-up in that race. So,
She got my vote, so she's got at least one.
yeah.
But this is our second election, I think. She's been there 3 years.
Yeah.
Who else? We got Paul Jennings for the Regional School Committee.
That's right. Paul Jennings, and longtime member of the school committee.
Yeah. And we got Sean Leach on there twice,
Sean Leach, yep.
Fish Commissioner and Landing Commissioner. He's been involved in a lot of stuff.
He has a great background. I mean, in terms of a lot to do with our waterways and things like that too.
He's on I don't know if he's chair, but he's on the beach committee, but he's the one that opens the beach parking lots.
Yes.
And then we have constable. We have Art Caesar and Joshua Caesar for
As a
constable.
father and son duo.
Father and son, yeah.
Okay.
They're following Art's footsteps of the constable. And then Twiggy, I know her name says Pauline on the ballot. We have Twiggy Maderos for
Right.
the assessor. So I think this is her. I don't know if it's her
So I
first
think
full
it's-
election.
Maybe the first full. I think we appointed her to a vacancy a
think
couple of
so,
years
yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
And
We're really fortunate to have so many dedicated people willing to volunteer their time.
Yeah.
We have a lot of committee appointments too are coming up. So in June, end of June is when a lot of committee appointments leave. If you're interested in volunteering for anything, talk to somebody, talk to us. Even the committees that look like they might be full might have people who are just hanging on and just looking for the right person to kind of backfill them. So we want to get more people involved in, I know the bike walking path committee is doing a lot of stuff. I just recently got on that committee. I took over some of Steve's committees when he got elected, but
Okay.
bike walking path, they're a force, man. They're going to
No,
make
they,
that.
yeah.
Gail Roderick's on bike walking path. She's going to make stuff happen. We have the cable advisory. We have the recreation department,
Recreation Department, we have the
ag open space.
Affordable Housing Trust, we have 2 vacancies. We have the, I think Long-Term Building Committee is in a rebuilding mode, so there may be some changes in that committee.
I suspect there'll be some changes.
And that might be another one. And then we have the Just In Case Committee, which is called the Offshore Wind Committee, which is just in case there's an offshore wind issue in Westport.
Yeah,
But that front has sort of settled down a little bit in recent, last year or two.
nothing imminent coming on that front. And I know I still have the Internet Advisory Committee, but there hasn't been any, we haven't met in a couple of years, so I'm going to recommend we disband that one. Somebody texted me and reminded me that this is telecommunication week, but I think this is the police dispatchers week, I think, and animal control appreciation week. So thank you to the people with telecommunications and animal control.
Well, I've had a rabid raccoon in my yard, and I've had a scary-looking fox. And those are the times when you really appreciate the animal control officers.
Yeah.
because, You know, the rabid raccoon was the day after Thanksgiving. And we had the kids were home, because it's the long weekend. And it was scary, because it was just, you know, it was barely moving, it was dying. I don't want to describe what it looked like, but
Pretty bad.
foam at the mouth and things like that. But it was nothing that you wanted to, take any chances with. So luckily, the response was fast and effective.
Okay.
And I think that they were doing that in tandem with the police department. That wasn't a solo act. But we're still waiting.
If somebody's calling me.
What?
Somebody's calling me. Yeah, so animal control, I think we're down to one animal control officer, and like.
Because we had a few the last couple of years.
We had a few like part-time animal control, but we're down to, I think, one, so that's too bad. We're gonna be, I don't know if it must be posted by now, but, we have new positions coming up for, Director of Senior Services, so Beverly
Right,
Beverly
Beverly's-
Bish has, announced that she's retiring. So we're in the.
She's ending at the end of August, I
I
think?
think in August, yeah.
Yes.
So we're gonna be looking for somebody, can't fill her shoes, I don't think, but,
Right.
someone as eager and enthusiastic as Bev. The town nurse has announced that she's
I
retiring.
didn't realize that.
So we're gonna be on the lookout for a nurse. We have, I don't think, we haven't appointed lifeguards yet. We're always looking for lifeguards.
Yes, well, it's a great summer job, so, that, and, they don't make as much money as the horseneck folks make. but-
That's been the challenge, right? The horse, you could just go work a horse neck and make more money. Yeah.
But it's a different environment, I think there's a tad, but it's the same waterfront for the most part, so. There's some differences in terms of the exposure of the beaches, but
Yeah.
it's still,
It seems like we're always hiring in the highway department. I'm not sure if we have an opening now, or if it's just gonna be seasonal people coming up, but I know, I would say so you tell me if this is true for you. The two biggest complaints I get, the two biggest constituent complaints I get, one is people speeding, and are speeding, and it's, no neighborhood, no street is immune to this. Speeding is a
No.
thing. And the second one is mowing the grass. The grass either along the roadways or at the cemetery department.
and then and you have to sometimes distinguish between what is state land and what is local land, but particularly in some neighborhoods where it's difficult to discern. But there was some good street work done this summer, this past year. We did a lot of surfacing projects too. That were particularly towards the northern section.
So, right, so the water project, I would say, yeah, I say the putting in the water lines, and the roads being kind of torn up for a little while there, you're
Yeah.
right, that was probably the bigger
But-
complaints we got this year.
Yeah, that was the biggest one.
Yeah,
Particularly on the smaller side streets that were part of the grid. But,
and I know now we're getting a lot of attention on the work that's going on Hicksbridge Road. So the
oh,
Hicksbridge
that's
Road,
some concern about, because we're doing major reconstruction right in the middle of the high season.
yeah, but there's really no time, there's no good time to be doing major road work like that. The NSTAR insisted that they assured us they would keep one lane open. They were not gonna close, they would not close the whole roadway, because they were reminded in some of our meetings about how long the detours are if
Right.
you have to detour around, so They did assure us that they were working small sections at a time so that they could complete whatever they were going to complete in a day. I know some people were worried about the Hicks Bridge, the boat ramp over there. So we expressed some concern to them for that. So hopefully that'll get managed well. I think it's important to put the power line, that was one of the things I found so strange when I moved to New England, is how many overhead power lines you had. Like I moved here from Texas, where you have much more planned communities that have come in, right? And there, everything is underground, right? But here, although I have to say that the work that the utility companies did on the tree trimming had to have made a huge impact on when that blizzard that we had, because I lost power for like 20 minutes in
I
that
didn't lose any
blizzard.
power at all.
Yeah.
I lost cable.
You lost cable. No, mine, I woke up on that Monday morning and the power was out. I'm like, oh, this is it. We're gonna be days with no power, and it
Yes.
came right back on. And I think there's a lot of good work by people, but I think the tree trimming was a big part of it.
I think so, and it was a lot, again, fair amount done in recent years. Because some of the areas, I know in the part of town I live in, that there are some areas that the trees are likely, with old branches, and those trees were trimmed and didn't knock out power. But I remember one road in particular, American Legion Highway, would have a couple of trees that fell during Superstorm Sandy that knocked out
Yeah,
power for a while.
yeah. Yeah, and Sandy, I think we had, there were a lot of road closures on that one, I think.
Yes.
Yeah,
Some flooding too.
yeah, flooding, yep. One of the meetings I've been at lately is Barrier Beach planning.
Yes.
So we're getting some results coming back from the studies that have been done for the Barrier Beach. That's a tricky one to know what to do, because, you know, you're kind of balancing what is nature trying to do on your barrier beaches, and what do the property owners down there need, and how do you keep the roadway open, and utilities. So it's really a big mix.
There's a salt marsh thing coming up.
Okay, there's a salt marsh thing. Is that what we have here? What is this?
Oh,
One's
what,
eco recycle and one's salt marsh.
Eco Art and Ocean Plastics, Thursday, April 30th, 5 PM to 6 PM at the River Center from the watershed, or via Zoom. So you can either go to the River Center, up is in the head of Westport on 493 Old County Road. It's from 5 to 6 PM, or there is presumably a Zoom link. You can only get the Zoom link by contacting the Westport River Watershed Alliance at either 508-636-3016, extension 1006. That's 508-636-3016, extension 1006. Or you can email at wep@wrwa.com. And this is Eco Art and Ocean Plastics, Nature Talk. Artist Kathy Rodden Walker will discuss her process for art making with the community. Through art, she raises awareness about plastic pollution in the oceans and other environmental issues, while exploring the interconnectedness of humans and non-humans in the natural world.
And the other side is the salt marsh.
Salt marsh, save the date, save our state of our salt marshes. That's Monday, April 27th from 6 to 8. This is Mass Audubon with SNEP Network. Invites you to join a conversation about local coastal habitat protection and restoration opportunities, and how we can work together to protect our estuary. Some of the co-sponsors include Mass Audubon, the SNEP Network, New England EEFC, which is the Environmental Finance Center, Town of Westport, and it looks at opportunities for restoration, prioritizing land protection needs, looking at future preservation efforts. This will be held on April 27th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Westport Free Public Library, 408 County Road, Westport.
I just went on to the Westport MA250.com website to see what's going on. So I think we mentioned earlier on Saturday, 18th, from 2 to 4 at the Westport Free Public Library. There's a talk from some local historians that are transcribing the town meeting records that we talked about
Oh,
earlier.
that'd be fascinating. Yeah.
I think that'll be a pretty good one, yeah. And then they've also got on there, there's a group at the Dartmouth Public Library, looks like they're meeting monthly, that are handwriting the Constitution. So they're inviting people to come reflect on the Constitution. So that looks like a monthly event. Looks like the library's busy as usual. In May, they have Art for Your Mind, of earlier American colonial painting. So they're going to be doing that. And then they have revolutionary images, so some art exhibits at the library in May, so don't miss that. And then coming into the summer, I love the summer in Westport. Summer in Westport is amazing. So on June 20, there's River Day, so put that on your calendar. On June 27, there's going to be a 13th Continental Regiment encampment at the Handy House. So we're having a revolutionary encampment here in town. And
Bring
then,
your musket.
Bring your musket. Do you have a musket?
No, I
handy?
don't have a musket.
You have a three-cornered hat, maybe? Then on July 2nd, the rec department is planning to have a military-type band to kick off the summer concert series. Obviously, the 4th of July parade is a must-go on any given year.
Yes.
The Historical Society has some stuff going on. And then Irene didn't mention it because Betty Slade was not here. If Betty Slade was here, we would have gotten a full rundown on the Shallop. So on the 15th of August, the Shallop is coming
Oh, right.
to the Point. And the Shallop is celebrating the, they're putting in conjunction with Paul Coffey, who was the blockade runner of the Shallop during the Revolutionary War. So he was a Quaker, so he wasn't fighting, but he was running the blockade with, I think, out to Nantucket. So they're going to have the Shallop and they're going to have a sardine boat out at the Point. I think that's going to be really pretty interesting in August. So lots of events, lots of ways to get involved. If anybody, we heard Irene earlier, if we have scout troops doing something, if we have any kind of charitable groups, churches, organizations doing stuff, they want to hear about it, and they'll post it on the Westport250ma.com. We're still waiting to hear from the clerk's office. I'm trying to see what else is going on this week.
Oh, one year with Jim Coyne, we just, I think we just gave up.
So Val's remembering, like Jim Coyne, I miss Jim Coyne
Yes,
so
I do.
much on this. He did such a good job of getting so many people in
He did. And
to talk.
And I think part of it was he sort of got it by doing a lot of the advance interviews with the candidates.
Yeah.
I think he in addition to his own role in the town and being a keen observer of life, public life, he was, I think it made his moderation a little bit more effective. And people also were more, he would reach out, I mean,
Yeah.
we sort of got deputized with this assignment. We said we'd be interested, and then last night, I think we all got an email,
Yes.
and half of us were already predisposed someplace else, and that left the two to four of us,
So if it seems like we were a little unorganized today, it was because we were, in fact, a little unorganized.
24 hours advance notice to plan a show, and then we decided to allocate all of 25 minutes doing the pre-show preparation. So,
So thank you for bearing with us while we wait. We're, like, I feel like that we need drum rolls or music or something.
yes, I know, like that, You know, or you have to have somebody with a lit up map, you know, and 5% of the vote
5%
is
of the vote is in, and this is what it
from
looks
precinct A, you know.
like.
I can't get that complicated with the graphics.
We didn't have any exit polling, so,
Yeah.
we,
I talked to 3 people on the way out.
I talked to a couple people. Yeah, I saw some people from outside Westport that are coming in to hold signs and things like that, so
Interesting.
we're a great town to come into, spend some time at.
I mean, in the fall elections, we do have people, we have seats that go into other communities, so that you're gonna get, you know, county positions, county-wide provisions, statewide positions that are on the local.
Well, some of the
ballot.
statewide offices are still collecting signatures, so
Yeah.
I saw some people out at precinct E when I was out there collecting signatures still for
Yeah,
some of the state candidates.
precinct C was fairly well-staffed by sign holders for the mid-afternoon when I went today to vote.
That's good. I know some of the campaigns were only putting like the first couple hours and the last couple hours.
Right.
One of the things I really like about holding signs is like, even if you're holding signs for competing people,
Yeah.
it's still nice to just chat with some people, hang out, see the cars honking their horns, which probably the neighbors really love.
Yes.
But it's kind of nice to feel like you're out there in a community doing something.
Right.
Of course, when I was running, then I spent all day at the polls. Today, I only spent a couple hours.
I spent, because of this massive cold that I have, I spent the time it took for me to vote.
Oh, okay. Can't be
So it's
every-
5 minutes past the hour of 9. The polls have been closed for 1 hour.
I think she's gonna do her thing first before she gives you the result.
She came up and told us she would give us the preliminary results.
Oh, okay, good. Okay.
Yeah.
She said they'd be preliminary because she wasn't going to try to do the provisional ballots.
And they are presumably were feeding the absentee ballots throughout the day when they had time, or they were doing it during the day, so that the absentee ballots, as well as probably the advanced voting. Do we have advanced voting in this one?
I didn't hear much about it.
Yeah, I
if you
didn't either.
did.
But those would be presumably have been run through the computer and counted. So it's really just the provisionals, which do require some state oversight in terms of duplicates, whatever. So checking for that, in other words.
I mean, we could go hover over her.
Yeah, we could.
Probably wouldn't help.
You have a mobile camera, Val? You can go downstairs and we'll just, man on the street, go down and interview people in the clerk's office.
Next year.
Next year, have a mobile capability.
Get the candid camera thing going. Yeah.
We're waiting. The public is waiting on pins and needles to see who prevailed.
Again, there are 4 contested races. The planning board has 2 people running for 2 5-year, one 5-year slots, Jared Poniger and Roswell Underwood. There are 2 people running for 1 seat on the school board. That's the incumbent Evan Gendro, and then Kyle Stang is also running. And we have 3 people running for 2 seats on the select board. Incumbent Jake McGuigan is running, and the challenges are Keith Dias, and, well, they're not challenges, anyone can get elected, but he's the incumbent. And then the 2 non-incumbents are Keith Dias and
Richard Mundy.
Richard Mundy. And then, and that's it. The rest are not contested races, and presumably they will all be elected, but you still have to be sworn in. So once you get elected,
They're doing their thing.
They're still doing, we're here from a good authority, they are still doing their thing.
any estimates?
No, they're in intent.
Really?
Nobody went out and snapped photos.
I have unofficial results, but I'm not going to say them on TV.
Those are the ones I usually run. Everybody knows they're unofficial.
I don't have all the races, I only have one. I have several,
Oh, you do?
so I'm not gonna say.
Gonna make a whiteboard and
I don't, all I have is what people told me who won. But that was not an official source,
no,
so
but they know.
can help.
probably somewhat accurate, but I'm not gonna say. It's not my place to announce it in advance of the town clerk.
Well, that's how I found out. I wouldn't, so I didn't make any public statement because, I did. Somebody just said to me, he said, well, you know, we were getting together, and he said, why don't you come over? And I said, this wasn't a big deal. And I said, no, I haven't seen it, I haven't heard anything from the clerk yet. He goes, you're not gonna see anything tonight. So he said,
So somebody who heard me just say that wants to know how I had the results. So let me tell you how it works. So once the precinct that means people are watching, at least two people. I've gotten messages from two people.
There were 8 last time.
There were
Yeah.
8, okay, 8 of you who are listening. When the part of the procedures that they do when they close down the precincts is they, once they lock the doors, they declare the counts from the machines out loud, because if you have, we don't typically have election observers, but you're allowed to have election observers. So they announce the results, and then they post it on the polling location on a piece of paper.
yes,
And so I know my campaigns, and I know where these people are talking about, the campaigns that I
pictures
have
of the
had,
tapes.
you have people that are at the precinct at 8 o'clock when they're gonna close the door, who take picture of the results that have been posted, right? And then you can start accumulating them, which can kind of be nerve-wracking as the candidate, because I know just like at my, I had an election party at my last election, last April. We had an election party, and we got the results from, one of the precincts, and I had lost in that precinct. And so as the candidate, you're like, ooh, I'm about to face a terrible blow. So it's kind of like, I've always been on the fence about whether I wanted people around me if I
Yep.
was gonna lose, or whether I wanted to be alone if I was gonna lose. But I've been in 2 contested elections, and I had a party both times. But so these people, the reason people are saying that they know is because they've gone to the polling look. We have her.
We don't have everything though.
We have some.
All right.
the
You want to announce them
unofficial,
yourself?
No,
No?
I'm still working on.
Okay.
planning, but I will give them to you.
Kristensen, fabulous job today.
Hello, everybody.
like,
So these are just from the tickets,
okay,
okay? Because we still have 3 precincts out tallying, because we had a lot of write-ins, particularly for Commissioner Trust Funds. Probably
Okay.
won't
I'm
like
glad we have a commissioner of trust funds when
We
this
will
is
have
all
one,
over.
yeah.
Okay.
But I know that E had some hand count ballots. Those are the only ballots that are probably significant enough that they could change something. But there is a pretty good gap between all the votes. So you might be able to start to decipher, but it's not done.
Okay.
So, all
Thank
right?
you, Chris.
So there you
Go. Thanks
go.
for the
Those
work
are
you guys are
just from the
doing.
tickets.
Thank you to
Okay.
all of the people that worked the polls.
okay, so
All
on,
right, so what do we got?
on the select board race, you can read it because of my eyes. But-
So for the select board, so we get the top 2 votes. So we have Jake McGuigan got 1,297 votes. Keith Diaz got 743 votes. And Richard Mundy got 880. So that would be Jake McGuigan and
Richard
Rick Mundy,
Yep,
our new select board members. So congratulations to the 2 of you. For assessor, as you might imagine, Twiggy got 1,234 votes. There were a few miscellaneous write-ins. For Board of Health, Donna Amaral got 1,168 votes, with Carrie and Fennelly at 463. So congratulations to Donna Amaral. But that's a good indicator of how many, it looked like the total votes were 1,803. It looks like 1,803 people voted in this election overall. Commissioner of Trust Funds, there were 155 write-in votes, so that's what Chris was mentioning, so.
We
she
won't
got
have
a-
those results
We
tonight.
won't have those results tonight. Constable, we had Art Caesar with 1,084 votes and Joshua Caesar with 954, so they are both in. Fish Commissioner, Sean Leach got 1,300 votes, so congratulations, Sean Leach. Liz Collins got 1,209 votes on Housing Authority. Paul Stein got, I said 12,000, 1,209.
Yes.
Paul Stein got 1,148. Landing Commissioner Sean Leach at 1,254. We're trying to find the next, okay, the Library Trustees, we had Paula Feidelberg got 1,161 and Carolyn Fonts got 1,062, so congratulations to them. And then the Planning Board, we had Jared Pottiger at 883 votes and Roswell Underwood at 617. So congratulations to Jared Pottiger. Paul Jennings at 1191 for the Regional School Committee. For School Committee, Evan Gendro got 1,065 votes and Kyle Stang got 613. So congratulations to Evan.
Good.
And then Chris Stinson got 1,338 votes. So she's the top vote getter in town. Great job, Kristen. So just to summarize, or to go through that again. So Select Board, we have Jake McGuigan returning and welcoming Rick Mundy. Assessor Twiggy Maderos. Board of Health, welcome back Donna Amaral. Constable, we have Art and Joshua Caesar. Fish Commissioner Sean Lynch, Housing Authority Liz Collins, Housing Authority Paul Stein, Landing Commissioner Sean Leach, Library Trustees Paula Feidelberg and Carolyn Fonts, Planning Board Jared Pottiger, welcome to the board. Regional School Committee is Paul Jennings, and then congratulations to incumbent Evan Gendro for returning to the school committee, and then Chris Stinson as the town clerk. Phew. We did that. So congratulations to everybody. Thank you to all the poll workers, the workers in the clerk's office.
And that concludes our broadcast this evening.
If you have been, so Chris, the town clerk's office will be certifying and doing her thing. So if you have been elected, you need to talk to the clerk in the next couple of days to get
Sworn in, yes.
All right.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.